An alien princess wedding surprising twist, when a human is unexpectedly chosen as the groom. A scientist by trade, he spent most of his days in the quiet laboratories of Aurora Colony, studying alien plant life and environmental systems. His life was orderly, predictable, and safe, filled with the steady hum of machines and the soft glow of data screens. Yet nothing in his life had prepared him for the morning he received the holographic invitation. The invitation arrived as a soft blue light flickering above his breakfast table. Ethan blinked in surprise. The delicate glow shaped itself into symbols and scripts he had never seen before. Curious, he reached out, and the hologram responded to his touch, transforming into words he could understand. "You are invited to the royal wedding of Princess Lyra of the Zorian Empire. Your presence is requested at the royal capital, arrival by the next full cycle." Ethan stared at the message, unsure if it was a mistake. The Zorian Empire was one of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. Their cities floated among the clouds of alien planets, their technology far beyond anything humans had achieved. And yet here was an invitation for him, a simple human scientist, to attend a royal wedding. "Maybe it's a prank," Ethan muttered to himself. He tapped a few buttons on his desk, trying to confirm the origin of the invitation. Every scan returned the same result, authentic royal transmission. His pulse quickened. Ethan's curiosity overcame doubt. He packed his belongings with meticulous care, wondering what alien civilization life might truly be like. The next day, he boarded a sleek interstellar transport that would carry him to the Zorian capital. The journey was long, but the ship was comfortable. Transparent windows offered a breathtaking view of stars, swirling nebulae, and distant planets. He had traveled for research before, but never had the cosmos felt so alive. On board, he met other guests. Diplomats from far planets, nobles wearing elegant robes that shimmered in the light, and scientists from human colonies. Everyone was preparing for the royal wedding, discussing traditions, customs, and expectations. Yet Ethan noticed something unusual. No one seemed to have met the princess herself. Stories of her intelligence, grace, and compassion floated through the air like whispers, creating a sense of mystery and anticipation. When the transport finally landed on the royal platform, Ethan was struck silent. The Zorian capital was unlike anything he had imagined. Towers floated effortlessly in the sky, connected by glowing bridges of energy. Gardens with bioluminescent plants stretched as far as the eye could see. Streams of water glowed with soft light, and strange creatures moved gracefully around the city, some hovering, others gliding along the pathways. The air itself seemed alive, filled with a melody that resonated in the bones. Ethan was guided through the city by Zorian attendants, their forms elegant and slightly taller than humans. Their skin shimmered faintly, reflecting colors that humans couldn't naturally see. They spoke in a musical tone, yet a translation device allowed Ethan to understand every word. "You have arrived just in time, honored guest," one attendant said. "Princess Lyra will soon appear for the welcoming ceremony." Ethan's heart raced. The idea of meeting an alien princess in person was thrilling and terrifying. He adjusted his simple suit, feeling distinctly out of place among the elegantly dressed guests. Some of the aliens glanced at him curiously, whispering in their musical language. Ethan could only hope he would make a good impression. The ceremony began in a grand hall, floating above a waterfall that sparkled in multiple colors. Aliens of all shapes and sizes filled the room, some walking on air platforms, others levitating gracefully. Ethan could hardly focus on anything besides the feeling of history and importance around him. And then it happened. Princess Lyra appeared. She descended slowly, carried by a platform of soft light. Ethan gasped. She was unlike any description he had read in the reports. Her eyes glowed gently with an inner light, reflecting intelligence and kindness. Her hair floated slightly, as if reacting to some unseen force, and her robes shimmered with patterns that seemed alive, moving like waves across a calm sea. All guests bowed or inclined their heads. Ethan instinctively did the same, feeling a strange mix of honor and fear. Princess Lyra's gaze swept across the room, and then unexpectedly it rested on him. For a moment the hall felt still. Ethan's pulse raced. He didn't understand why she looked at him so directly. "Welcome, honored guest," Lyra said, her voice melodic but clear. "Your journey has been long, and yet you arrived on time. That is impressive." Ethan managed a polite nod, unable to form words immediately. He felt the weight of her attention, but also a warmth that eased his nerves. She turned slightly to address the room, her voice carrying authority without arrogance. "Today, we celebrate not just a union of hearts, but a vision for the future," she continued. "A future where we connect with those beyond our known worlds, embracing new ideas, new friends, and new hope." Ethan's mind raced. Was this just ceremonial speech, or was there something deeper about her words? He would soon find out in ways he could never have imagined. After the ceremony, the guests were guided to a reception area. The hall was filled with strange yet beautiful foods and drinks that glowed softly. Ethan sampled what he could, finding the flavors unusual but delightful. Conversations continued, but Ethan's mind kept returning to Princess Lyra. There was something about her attention that made him uneasy, yet excited. That evening, as the stars glimmered outside the transparent dome of the palace, a herald approached Ethan. His formal voice contrasted with the musical tones of the aliens. "Human guest, the princess requests your presence," he said simply. Ethan's stomach tightened. "Emmy," he stammered. The herald nodded, guiding him to a quieter chamber away from the glittering lights and crowds. When the doors opened, Ethan stepped into a room bathed in soft, floating light. Princess Lyra was there, studying a holographic display of constellations. She turned when he entered, smiling faintly. "Thank you for coming," she said. "I hope the journey was not too difficult." It was incredible," Ethan replied. "I've never seen anything like this." Lyra nodded, stepping closer. "I imagine humans are not used to our cities, our traditions, or even our ways of life. Yet here you are. That says much about your character." Ethan felt a warmth in her words. They were not just polite, there was genuine curiosity and respect in her tone. I just wanted to see your world," he admitted. "And that is why you are here," Lyra said softly. "Sometimes, we must look beyond our expectations to find those who can help shape our future." Ethan didn't understand completely, but he sensed that this meeting was more than simple ceremony. The words hung in the air as he realized that the Zorians valued qualities humans had in abundance: curiosity, courage, and ingenuity. The night passed quickly. Ethan returned to his quarters, mind buzzing with thoughts. He could hardly sleep, imagining the next day's events. Little did he know, the true surprise of his visit was yet to come. A surprise that would change not only his life, but the perception of humans across the galaxy. As he drifted into a light sleep, he could feel the vastness of the universe pressing in with possibilities. He had always considered himself an ordinary human, a simple scientist. Yet here, in the heart of the Zorian Empire, he sensed that his life was about to become extraordinary in ways he could never have predicted. The invitation was only the beginning. The morning sun cast a soft glow over the floating towers of the Zorian capital. Ethan woke to a sense of excitement he had never felt before. His mind replayed the events of the previous evening, the stunning views, the welcoming ceremony, and most of all, Princess Lyra's words. He had thought the day ahead would be filled with sightseeing, polite conversations, and ceremonial duties. But he was about to discover that nothing in the Zorian Empire followed ordinary human expectations. He dressed carefully in the attire provided by his alien hosts, a sleek suit that shimmered slightly, adjusting to his movements, and shoes that seemed to float just above the ground. The technology fascinated him. Even the clothes felt alive, responding to the comfort and posture of the wearer. As he prepared to leave his quarters, a small robotic assistant appeared. "Good morning, honored guest," it said in a soft, melodic tone. "The princess requests your attendance at the Grand Assembly. She will make a significant announcement shortly." Ethan's stomach tightened. He had been feeling uneasy ever since the invitation, a mixture of anticipation and nervousness. He followed the assistant through the palace corridors, marveling at the bioluminescent walls and floating walkways. For a moment, he wondered if humans would ever build anything so breathtaking, or if they could even imagine a world like this. The Grand Assembly Hall was enormous, floating high above the palace gardens. Guests from across the galaxy had already gathered. Aliens of every imaginable form hovered, walked, or glided gracefully through the hall. A gentle hum filled the air, a sound of energy and life that made Ethan feel as though he had stepped into another dimension. At the center of the hall, Princess Lyra appeared, her robes flowing like liquid light. The room fell silent as she raised her hands. Her gaze swept across the guests, calm and commanding. When it reached Ethan, he felt a strange mixture of awe and utter confusion. "My honored guests," Lyra began, her voice carrying across the hall, melodic yet firm. "Today is a day of celebration and transformation. It is a day when the threads of destiny weave in ways we do not always expect." She paused, and all eyes were on her. Ethan's pulse quickened. "Tradition has always guided us," she continued, "and yet tradition alone cannot bring the future we seek. Sometimes the future calls for courage, for innovation, and for the unexpected." Ethan felt a shiver of anticipation. He could sense the tension among the audience, a mixture of curiosity and anxiety. He could not guess what was coming next. Then Lyra spoke words that made the entire assembly gasp. "It is my honor to announce that my chosen groom is a human." The hall erupted in whispers and stunned murmurs. Ethan's mouth went dry. A human? Him? Surely this was a mistake. He looked around, seeking someone who might explain, but all eyes were on him. Even the alien diplomats who were used to hearing astonishing news seemed taken aback. Lyra's gaze met his, steady and unyielding. "Ethan Harper," she said clearly, "your curiosity, courage, and humanity have brought you here. You will stand with me not merely as a guest, but as my chosen partner." Ethan stumbled backward slightly, nearly colliding with a hovering platform. His mind raced. How could this be? He was just a scientist, a human. What did he know about royal weddings, alien politics, or interstellar diplomacy? And yet the princess's words were clear. There was no room for doubt. The whispers in the hall grew louder. Some nobles covered their mouths, astonished. Others shook their heads, clearly skeptical of a human groom. Ethan felt a wave of anxiety wash over him. He had always considered humans clever and resourceful, but this was something entirely different. Lyra raised her hands again, bringing the room to silence. "I understand your surprise. Many of you may question this choice. Yet the ancient prophecy guides me. The groom who will help shape our empire's future must come from beyond the known worlds. He must bring fresh ideas, courage, and a heart unburdened by centuries of tradition. Ethan Harper, you fulfill this role." Ethan swallowed hard, trying to form words. I don't know what to say," he admitted, his voice shaking slightly. "Then say this," Lyra replied gently, a small smile on her face. "You will join me not because you were expected, but because you are capable. Together we will embrace the unknown." A mix of relief, pride, and fear flooded Ethan's mind. He nodded, still in disbelief. I will do my best," he said. "That is all anyone could ask," Lyra said. Her smile widened, but her gaze remained thoughtful. "Come, Ethan, there is much to learn, and the world you are entering will challenge you in ways you cannot yet imagine." The assembly continued, but Ethan's thoughts were elsewhere. He felt the weight of the title, the expectations, and the uncertainty of the future. Humans had often been underestimated by other civilizations. But now, in this moment, he realized that the galaxy might finally see what humans could accomplish. After the ceremony, Lyra requested a private meeting. Ethan followed her through a series of corridors that twisted and turned impossibly, as though the palace itself was alive. They arrived at a room overlooking a floating garden where streams of light moved like rivers across the air. Lyra gestured for him to sit. "I wanted to speak with you privately," she said. "I understand this is overwhelming." It is not often that a human is chosen for such a role, but the prophecy does not lie. You have something the Zorians need, your perspective, your creativity, your courage. Ethan nodded slowly. "I want to help," he said, "but I don't know if I'm ready for this." The attention, the responsibility, it's all too much sometimes. Lyra's eyes softened. "You are not alone. You will have guidance, friends, and allies, but more importantly, you have your humanity. That is your greatest strength. Humans think differently. You adapt, innovate, and connect in ways we often cannot. That is why you were chosen." For the first time, Ethan felt a spark of confidence. Perhaps he could rise to the occasion. Perhaps humans truly could stand alongside the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. Over the next few hours, Lyra introduced him to the customs of the Zorian Empire, explaining ceremonial practices, expectations, and the delicate balance of politics and tradition. Ethan listened carefully, asking questions and taking notes. He discovered that even simple human habits, like empathy, humor, and creative thinking, were rare among Zorians. By the afternoon, Ethan was exhausted but exhilarated. He walked through the floating gardens with Lyra, discussing everything from human science to alien technology, sharing laughs and exchanging ideas. A bond was forming, one not of fear or obligation, but of mutual respect and curiosity. Back in the palace, whispers continued. Some Zorians openly doubted that a human could adapt to royal duties, while others were intrigued. Ethan realized that his actions, his choices, and even his attitude toward learning would influence not just his fate, but the perception of humans throughout the Empire. That evening, as the twin moons of the Zorian capital rose, Ethan reflected on the day's events. He had come expecting a simple visit to a royal wedding. Instead, he had been chosen for a role he could never have imagined. A wave of determination washed over him. If humans were to earn respect in this vast galaxy, he would prove that courage, curiosity, and heart could bridge worlds. And as he looked out over the glowing city, he realized that this was only the beginning. The path ahead would be challenging, unpredictable, and above all, extraordinary. Tomorrow, he would begin learning the rituals and preparations required for the wedding. He would meet nobles, diplomats, and emissaries from planets he had only read about in textbooks. And somewhere along that path, he would discover just how remarkable humans could be. For now, he allowed himself a moment of quiet pride. A human had been chosen as the groom for an alien princess. Against all odds, he had stepped into a story larger than himself, a story that could shape the future of the Zorian Empire, and perhaps the galaxy itself. And with that thought, Ethan Harper closed his eyes, ready for the adventure that awaited him, unaware that the most astonishing surprises were yet to come. Ethan woke early, the soft glow of the Zorian capital casting long streaks of light across his quarters. Today marked the beginning of his preparation for the wedding, a series of ceremonies and rituals unlike anything he had ever seen. His mind raced with excitement, but also with a quiet anxiety. How could a human, raised on a simple colony planet, ever adapt to the complex and centuries-old customs of the Zorians? A gentle chime announced the arrival of Princess Lyra. She entered with her usual elegance, her robes shimmering like liquid starlight. She smiled at Ethan. "Good morning," she said, her voice warm and melodic. "Today begins your training in our customs. It may seem overwhelming at first, but I trust in your abilities." Ethan nodded, trying to steady his nerves. "I'll do my best," he said, though his voice carried a trace of uncertainty. Lyra led him to the Hall of Traditions, a large chamber floating above the palace gardens. The walls shimmered with holographic displays showing centuries of Zorian history, rituals, and ceremonies. Hovering platforms displayed ornate attire, ceremonial objects, and symbols of the Empire. Ethan's eyes widened. "Your first lesson," Lyra began, "is understanding our ceremonial etiquette. Every gesture, every movement carries meaning. To perform them correctly is to show respect not only to me, but to the entire Empire." Ethan nodded, determined to absorb every detail. He watched as Lyra demonstrated the proper ways to bow, float, and interact with different types of Zorians. At first, it felt awkward. His human body was not designed for graceful floating or delicate gestures. He stumbled, nearly bumping into one of the hovering platforms. Lyra chuckled softly, a sound that eased his embarrassment. "Humans are not accustomed to our gravity techniques," she said, "but your determination matters more than perfection." Over the next several hours, Ethan practiced tirelessly. He learned the telepathic greetings, which required focusing his thoughts clearly so that others could sense his intent. It was difficult at first. Humans were not naturally attuned to telepathy, and Ethan struggled to maintain the mental clarity required. But he discovered a surprising talent. His human mind could solve problems creatively, finding shortcuts and adjustments that made the process easier without disrespecting tradition. Next came the ceremonial attire. Ethan was fitted with a suit of shimmering energy fabric that adapted to his movements and even responded to his emotions. It was uncomfortable at first, tight in places and loose in others, but after a few adjustments, he began to move more naturally. Lyra watched him with approval. "You are learning quickly," she said. "That is why humans are remarkable. You do not simply follow tradition, you observe, adapt, and improve." Ethan smiled, a sense of pride filling him. For the first time, he felt that humans were not only capable, but also respected across worlds. As the day progressed, the lessons became more intricate. Ethan learned the gravity-defying dances performed during weddings, where participants moved effortlessly along shifting platforms, their movements creating patterns of light in the air. At first, he fell repeatedly, crashing into floating columns or nearly toppling decorative energy streams. Each failure was met with polite amusement from the instructors, but Ethan refused to give up. By evening, he had mastered enough of the movements to perform a basic routine. Lyra clapped her hands softly. "Excellent," she said. "Not perfect, but the effort and creativity you bring matter more than flawless execution." Next came the telepathic vows, a core part of Zorian weddings. These vows required participants to convey not only words but emotions, intentions, and visions of the future through thought alone. Ethan struggled, his human mind untrained in the art of telepathic expression. "You must focus," Lyra instructed gently. "Do not think of the words alone. Think of the feelings, the meaning behind them. Let your heart guide the transmission." Ethan concentrated, picturing his emotions, his respect for Lyra, and his desire to honor the tradition. Slowly, he felt a connection forming, a subtle link between his thoughts and the feedback from Lyra. She nodded, a soft smile spreading across her face. "You are improving," she said. "You bring something new to our traditions." Humans have the ability to combine emotion with innovation in ways many Zorians cannot. This is your strength. By the third day, Ethan was exhausted but exhilarated. He had learned basic etiquette, floating movements, ceremonial attire, and the foundations of telepathic vows. Yet challenges remained. Some traditionalist nobles openly questioned his presence. They whispered in their musical language, and Ethan could sense their skepticism even without understanding the words fully. Lyra noticed his discomfort. She took him aside. "Do not let their doubts affect you," she said. "They are cautious because change is unfamiliar, but your presence here is proof that humans can bridge worlds. You are not just a groom, you are a symbol of connection and innovation." Ethan nodded, drawing courage from her words. He realized that every action he took, every step he made in learning these rituals, would reflect not only on himself but on all humans. The thought made him focus harder, determined to prove that humans were capable and worthy. One afternoon, Ethan was introduced to the alien cuisine ceremony, an event where the groom demonstrates respect by understanding and appreciating the foods of the empire. Each dish was crafted from glowing fruits, protein strands suspended in liquid light, and herbs that changed flavor with touch. At first, the textures and tastes were unfamiliar, even disconcerting, but Ethan approached the task scientifically, tasting, observing, and learning. "Humans are curious and adaptable," Lyra said, watching him sample a glowing fruit that shimmered like starlight. "Your ability to understand without judgment is rare. That is why you are here." Word of Ethan's progress began to spread. Younger Zorians, intrigued by this human who dared to embrace their culture, began observing him with fascination rather than skepticism. His mistakes became learning opportunities, his creativity a source of inspiration. Slowly, Ethan realized that he was not just adapting, he was improving the experience for others. On the fifth day, the most difficult challenge awaited: the interweaving ceremony, a complex dance combining movement, telepathy, and energy manipulation. Participants floated through the air, weaving streams of light into patterns that represented unity and connection. Humans had never attempted this ceremony before. Ethan stood nervously at the starting point, his heart pounding. He glanced at Lyra, who nodded encouragingly. "Trust yourself, trust your humanity. That is all you need." As the music began, a harmonious blend of melodic tones and energy pulses, Ethan focused. He followed the movements as best he could, combining observation with instinct. For the first few moments he faltered, streams of light colliding awkwardly, patterns breaking. But then something shifted. He remembered Lyra's words: creativity and emotion mattered more than perfection. He let his mind flow freely, imagining the dance as a conversation, not a series of steps. Gradually, his movements synchronized with the light streams. Patterns emerged, elegant and dynamic, unlike any seen in previous ceremonies. The audience watched in awe. Zorian children clapped with delight, and even the skeptical nobles leaned forward, curiosity replacing doubt. Lyra's eyes shone with pride. "See," she whispered, "humans do not simply follow, they innovate. That is your gift." By the end of the ceremony, Ethan was physically exhausted but triumphant. He had not only completed the interweaving ceremony, but had added a touch of humanity to the tradition, showing that even age-old rituals could evolve. That evening, as Ethan rested in his quarters, he reflected on his journey. He had arrived in the Zorian capital as a simple human scientist, unsure of his place in this alien world. Now, after days of practice, challenge, and learning, he felt a deep sense of accomplishment. He had adapted to alien customs, learned intricate rituals, and gained the respect of those who had doubted him. Most importantly, he had proven to himself and to the galaxy that humans were capable of remarkable things. A soft chime announced Lyra's arrival. She entered, her expression calm but bright with excitement. "You have done more than I could have hoped," she said. "Not only have you learned our customs, but you have also shown us something new." That is the essence of what the prophecy spoke of, the groom who brings fresh ideas, courage, and heart. Ethan smiled, feeling the weight of her praise. "I only did what I could," he said humbly. Lyra shook her head gently. "No, you did more than you realize. You are not just my chosen groom. You are a symbol of unity, curiosity, and innovation. The Empire will remember this." As the twin moons of the Zorian capital rose once more, Ethan realized that the journey ahead would continue to challenge him. But for the first time, he felt confident, capable, and ready. He was a human in a galaxy of wonders, proving that even the smallest among us can shape the future. And as he looked out over the glowing city, he knew that the challenges of the wedding, the traditions, and the skeptical nobles were only the beginning. The true surprises of his human journey, adventures, revelations, and the deepening bond with Princess Lyra were still to come. Ethan Harper had embraced the challenge, and in doing so had taken another step toward becoming more than ordinary, more than human. He was a bridge between worlds. The day began quietly in the Zorian capital, the floating towers bathed in soft, golden light. Ethan had grown accustomed to the palace's grandeur, yet even now he could not stop marveling at the beauty surrounding him. Gardens floated above waterfalls, light streams glowed gently, and distant city structures shimmered like stars. But beneath the calm exterior, a sense of tension pulsed through the palace. Today, Ethan would face a challenge unlike any he had encountered before. Lyra approached him in the Hall of Traditions, her robes flowing like liquid starlight. "Today," she said, "you will undergo the test of the ancients. This challenge is the final step before the wedding. It is designed to see not just your skill or courage, but your heart, intelligence, and compassion. The relic will decide if you are worthy of the role you have been chosen for." Ethan swallowed hard. He had adapted to alien customs, learned complex rituals, and impressed many with his creativity. But the idea of facing an ancient relic, an artifact older than the Zorian Empire itself, made his pulse race. "What does the test involve?" he asked, his voice steady despite the anxiety in his chest. Lyra's eyes softened. "It cannot be explained fully. The relic presents challenges according to the individual's nature. It will assess your courage, your compassion, and your ability to think clearly under pressure. You must trust yourself and trust your humanity." Ethan nodded. He had faced problems before, both in his human colony and in his research, but nothing like this. He had no guide, no instructions, only his wits, his instincts, and the values he carried as a human being. The hall doors opened, revealing a chamber that seemed empty at first. But as Ethan stepped inside, the space shifted. Light streams converged into a large, floating relic at the center, a crystalline structure that pulsed with energy and shimmered with shifting patterns. The air hummed with power. A soft voice echoed in the chamber, resonant and calm. "Ethan Harper, you have been chosen. To fulfill your role, you must prove your worth. The challenge begins now." The floor beneath him changed, transforming into a glowing map of the Zorian capital and its surrounding regions. A small holographic projection appeared. An ecosystem on a nearby planet was collapsing due to an unstable energy field. The creatures living there were in danger. "You must stabilize it," the relic instructed. "Use your mind, your knowledge, and your heart." Ethan's eyes widened. He had expected puzzles or tests of etiquette, not real-world problems, but he quickly collected his thoughts. He studied the projection carefully, analyzing the patterns of energy and the delicate balance of the ecosystem. He realized that rushing would harm the creatures further. Patience, observation, and careful planning would be the key. He began devising a plan. Using his understanding of energy fields, fluid dynamics, and environmental systems, he formulated a sequence of adjustments that would stabilize the field. He imagined the creatures in the hologram, small and vulnerable, and considered what actions would protect them most effectively. Time seemed to stretch as he worked. The relic's energy pulsed in rhythm with his focus, responding to his calculations and decisions. Each adjustment required careful thought. A single mistake could cause collapse. Ethan's heart raced, but he reminded himself of his training and human ingenuity. He had solved impossible problems before. This was no different. Slowly, the unstable energy began to stabilize. Light streams in the hologram realigned, the creatures moved safely, and the ecosystem began to thrive once more. Ethan exhaled, feeling a surge of relief. The relic pulsed brightly, and the voice spoke again. "You have demonstrated intelligence, courage, and compassion. You are worthy." Ethan felt a wave of exhilaration. He had passed the test. The challenge had not been about physical strength or traditional skill. It had been about using his mind, empathy, and creativity to protect life. And in that moment, he realized something profound. Humans were capable of greatness not despite their limitations, but because of their unique perspective on problem-solving and care for others. But the day's surprises were not over. As Ethan returned to the palace, he noticed unusual activity in the corridors. Groups of nobles whispered, their faces tight with concern. Lyra approached him, her expression serious. "There is a faction among the nobles," she explained quietly. "Some do not approve of a human groom. They seek to disrupt the wedding to maintain tradition at any cost. You must be cautious." Ethan's mind raced. He had faced the relic, adapted to complex customs, and proven his courage. Could he also navigate political intrigue? Lyra placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Do not worry, you are not alone. Together we can address this. Your humanity, the way you think, your ability to reason and connect with others, will be your greatest tool." Later that day, the faction attempted a subtle sabotage. They tried to manipulate the ceremonial energy streams, creating obstacles in the palace halls. The floating platforms began shifting erratically, and some decorations hovered dangerously close to the guests. Panic began to ripple through the assembly. Ethan took a deep breath. He had learned to adapt, to observe carefully, and to think creatively under pressure. Using a combination of telepathic guidance from Lyra and his own logical thinking, he analyzed the energy flows and discovered the deliberate disruptions. Instead of confronting the nobles with anger or accusations, he devised a solution that corrected the energy streams while maintaining the ceremonial order. The streams stabilized, the platforms moved gracefully once more, and the guests watched in amazement. Some of the nobles who had doubted him now looked on with newfound respect. Ethan realized that humans could use intelligence, diplomacy, and innovation to solve problems without force, earning admiration rather than fear. Lyra approached him afterward, her eyes shining with pride. "You have done more than pass the relic's test," she said. "You have shown that humans bring balance, ingenuity, and courage. This is why you were chosen." Ethan smiled, feeling both exhaustion and elation. The challenges of the day had tested him in ways he had never imagined, but he had emerged stronger, more confident, and more aware of what humans could accomplish in a galaxy filled with wonders. As evening fell, the palace gardens glowed with soft light. Ethan and Lyra walked among floating streams of energy, their movements graceful yet casual. "You have learned much in a short time," Lyra said. "And yet there is more to discover. The wedding is not only a celebration, it is a symbol of unity and trust." "Your actions have already begun to shape how humans are seen across the Empire," Ethan nodded. "I never imagined that humans could be considered capable in a world so different from our own, but now I see that perspective, courage, and creativity matter everywhere." Lyra smiled. "Yes, and tomorrow you will learn to weave these qualities into the final preparations for the wedding. Your journey is far from over, but you are ready." For the first time, Ethan felt a deep sense of purpose. He was no longer just a scientist from a human colony. He was a partner in shaping the future of an empire, a bridge between worlds. The experiences of the day, from the relic's test to the subtle sabotage, had proven that humans were adaptable, intelligent, and compassionate. And with Lyra by his side, he felt prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As he gazed out over the city, watching the twin moons rise and reflect off the floating towers, Ethan realized that the surprises of the Zorian capital were far from over. The wedding would be unlike anything he had imagined, filled with wonder, intrigue, and moments that would test him further. But for the first time, he felt ready, capable, and confident in his place among the stars. Ethan Harper, the human groom, had faced the ancient relic, solved impossible challenges, and demonstrated the true strength of humanity. And tomorrow, the next chapter of his adventure, the wedding itself and the union of human ingenuity with Zorian tradition, would begin. He took a deep breath, feeling the calm of the gardens, the warmth of Lyra's presence, and the excitement of what was to come. The galaxy was wide, full of wonders, and for the first time he felt that humans were not just observers, they were participants, innovators, and allies. And as he closed his eyes for the night, he knew that the final challenges were near, but he was ready. The test, the intrigue, and the preparations had proven one undeniable truth. Humans could rise to greatness, even in worlds far beyond their own. The morning of the wedding dawned bright and clear over the Zorian capital. The floating towers shimmered in soft gold, reflecting the light of the twin suns. The city buzzed with excitement. Guests from across the galaxy had gathered, and even the clouds seemed to pulse with energy, as if celebrating the union that would soon take place. Ethan Harper, the human groom, awoke early. Sleep had been light. His mind raced with anticipation, pride, and just a touch of nerves. After all, he was about to stand beside Princess Lyra in a ceremony unlike any he had ever imagined. A ceremony that would unite cultures, species, and worlds. Lyra arrived at his quarters, her radiant presence filling the room with calm confidence. "Are you ready?" she asked, her voice gentle yet carrying a strength that steadied Ethan's nerves. "I think so," he replied, straightening his ceremonial attire. The energy fabric shimmered and shifted as he moved, responding to his heartbeat and emotions. "I've learned so much, and yet I feel there is still so much to do," Lyra smiled. "The preparations are complete. The ceremony will honor both our traditions. What matters most is sincerity and heart. That is something humans excel at." Ethan nodded, feeling a surge of courage. He remembered the lessons of the past days, adapting to customs, solving impossible problems, and gaining the respect of those who doubted him. He was no longer just a guest. He was a partner, a symbol, a bridge between humans and the Zorian Empire. The couple made their way to the grand wedding hall, a spectacular structure floating high above the gardens. Streams of light wove through the air, forming intricate patterns that shifted and danced with the movements of the guests. Platforms hovered gracefully, carrying delegates, nobles, and dignitaries from distant planets. The entire city seemed alive, holding its breath in anticipation. As Ethan walked beside Lyra, he noticed the gaze of the guests. There was curiosity, admiration, and even amazement. He realized that humans had always been underestimated, and yet here he was, standing as the chosen groom of a princess from the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. A sense of pride and responsibility filled him. The ceremony began with a floating procession. Ethan and Lyra moved along a path of glowing platforms, their robes reflecting streams of energy. Ethan's movements were precise yet fluid, a combination of human adaptability and the lessons he had learned in recent days. For the first time, he felt entirely in harmony with the Zorian customs. When they reached the central platform, the focus shifted to the telepathic vows, a critical element of the Zorian wedding. Ethan inhaled deeply. He closed his eyes, opening his mind and heart as Lyra guided him through the process. Words alone were insufficient. Each thought, emotion, and intention had to be shared with clarity and sincerity. Ethan imagined his admiration for Lyra, his commitment to their partnership, and his desire to honor the Zorian traditions. Slowly, a connection formed. He sensed Lyra's thoughts and emotions intertwining with his, a delicate yet powerful bond that transcended language. When the telepathic vows were complete, a wave of energy pulsed through the hall. Light streams intertwined around the couple, forming intricate patterns that reflected unity, trust, and collaboration. Ethan felt an overwhelming sense of accomplishment and joy. They had done it. They had honored both human and alien traditions in a single, harmonious act. Next came the interweaving ceremony, the gravity-defying dance Ethan had practiced for days. This time, he moved with confidence and precision. Lyra beside him. They glided along the platforms, weaving streams of light that mirrored their combined creativity and cooperation. Their movements were admired by all, especially by the young Zorians, who watched in wonder at the human who had mastered what many thought impossible. The ceremonial observers, including the nobles who had once doubted him, now nodded in approval. Some whispered to one another, clearly impressed. Ethan realized that this wedding was more than a celebration. It was a statement about humanity's potential in the galaxy. Humans were not just learners or guests. They were capable of inspiring and contributing in ways other civilizations had never imagined. As the ceremony progressed, the celebratory feast began. Alien delicacies floated through the air on small, shimmering platforms. Ethan marveled at the creativity of the dishes, tasting glowing fruits that shifted flavor with every bite and aromatic proteins suspended in liquid light. He shared the experience with Lyra, laughing and commenting on the flavors. The guests observed with curiosity and amusement, enjoying the sight of a human enthusiastically embracing the alien culture. During the feast, Ethan noticed small groups of diplomats and nobles approaching. He had expected skepticism or criticism, but instead, they offered words of admiration. One elder noble, whose traditional views had caused tension earlier, approached him carefully. "You have honored our customs and brought innovation in ways we did not expect," the noble said. "Your presence here shows that humans are capable, respectful, and valuable partners. The Empire will benefit from this union." Ethan felt a deep sense of pride. For the first time, he realized the true significance of his role. He was not just marrying a princess. He was demonstrating humanity's ability to adapt, contribute, and inspire across cultures and worlds. After the feast, Lyra led Ethan to a private balcony overlooking the glowing city. The twin moons reflected softly in the sky, casting a serene light over the floating gardens below. "Ethan," Lyra said, her voice gentle, "today was not just about a wedding. It was about connection between cultures, species, and hearts. You have shown courage, creativity, and compassion. You have brought humanity to the forefront of the Zorian Empire in a way that no one could have imagined." Ethan smiled, feeling a warmth in his chest. "I only tried to do my best," he said. "But I have to admit this experience has taught me so much about myself, humanity, and what we can accomplish when we work together." Lyra reached for his hand. "And that is why we will continue to build bridges, explore new worlds, and share our knowledge. Together, humans and Zorians can achieve more than either could alone." As they stood there, hand in hand, Ethan reflected on his journey. He had arrived as a simple human scientist, uncertain and overwhelmed. He had faced challenges, learned alien customs, passed the ancient test, navigated political intrigue, and proven his worth. And now he was part of a historic union, a symbol of cooperation and unity across worlds. The wedding concluded with a display of light and energy that spread across the city. Streams of glowing patterns floated into the sky, forming shapes that symbolized unity, trust, and hope. The citizens of the Zorian capital cheered, and even the distant planets could see the radiant celebration. Ethan and Lyra exchanged a final glance, a mixture of joy, admiration, and promise. The wedding had been more than a ceremony, it was a beginning. The humans and Zorians would work together, learn from each other, and explore the galaxy as partners. As the guests began to depart, Ethan felt a sense of fulfillment unlike any he had experienced. Humans had earned respect in a galaxy of wonders. They were no longer observers, but innovators, collaborators, and allies. And he, a single human scientist, had helped prove that. Later, as Ethan and Lyra returned to their private quarters, they discussed plans for the future. Exploration missions, scientific collaborations, and cultural exchanges filled their conversation. The wedding was a stepping stone, the first chapter in a new era of interstellar friendship and cooperation. Ethan looked out over the glowing city one last time that night. The floating towers, streams of energy, and glowing gardens reflected the possibilities that lay ahead. He realized that humans were capable of more than they ever imagined. Adaptability, creativity, courage, and compassion were not just traits. They were the keys to bridging worlds and shaping the future. And with Princess Lyra by his side, Ethan knew that the journey had only begun. Together, they would face challenges, explore new frontiers, and inspire others to believe in the extraordinary potential of humans. As he drifted into a calm, peaceful sleep, Ethan thought about how far he had come, from a scientist on a small colony planet to a human groom in the Zorian Empire. He smiled, knowing that the story of today would be remembered not for the grandeur of the ceremony alone, but for the proof that humans could rise, adapt, and shine even in worlds beyond their own. Tomorrow, new adventures awaited. But tonight, he allowed himself to celebrate humanity, love, and the infinite possibilities that lay among the stars. Ethan Harper, the human who had dared to step into the unknown, had shown the galaxy what humans were capable of. And this was only the beginning.